This is a spreader that Mott's at 3M Composting purchased and are renting out. We've been doing compost for 8 years or so, and one of the big challenges is being able to spread even, being able to get the product applied in a timely and efficient. We've used little spreaders and truck spreaders and had all sorts of problems with each of them. This seems to be the answer with the flotation of the track tires and having that capacity to load less often. We can do maybe 60, 70 acres on a good day of spreading. So it's eliminated a lot of the problems. We use mainly the compost and the organic certification ground for our nutrient management. And last year we've started using it. Actually 2 years ago we started using quite a bit of compost in our conventional farm stuff, just to hopefully make headway in getting our soil back in shape. This year we started dabbling with making compost, and this is hard to see, but there's a bunch of equipment out there, and finding that it's not exactly an easy thing to dive into and do a good job with. We've got, I think, 6 or 7 tractors out there. We change tractors and look for tractors and hydrostat slow enough and high enough, and calculating recipes, and we've made it quite a long ways. The compost the past few days has been 140 degrees. It's been going for 3 or 4 weeks now, and the carbon that we put into it, corn stalks, and the wood chips that we put in are disappearing quickly, and we're hoping here in another 4 or 5 weeks to have a pretty good high quality compost. That's the plan anyway. We started drip a long time ago. I remember my father started doing drip system on onion and high value crops, and then we've continued. Originally we used portable systems, and we're doing temporary installation of the subsurface drip tape, and then taking that out every year and moving the systems, and now we've gone to some permanent systems with underground pipe and permanent installation with the precision and GPS. We're able to then replant consecutive years right over the same line of drip tape, and that is this year we'll be going 3 years, and hopefully there are people who've been doing it for 20 and 30 years, so hopefully we can stretch the life of the drip tape and the system, and avoid the year-to-year expenses of the installation, and take out of the drip tape, and also eliminate quite a bit of waste. This isn't where this is supposed to be, but this is a cover crop that we did 2 falls ago. It's a 7-way mix, and this picture is rye, and you can see a little purple flower barely there. That's hairy vetch that came up the following spring. So this was fall planted, we grazed it, and then this is the following spring what we got to grow back. You can see a lot of dirt in there. We'll go another slide or 2 here, we'll kind of see more about that. It's going to be about 6 slides actually, so sorry about that. But the organic, this is a fall planted cover crop in an organic field. We had a field day, and people were out and around looking, And we looked at this cover crop the same day we looked at Zach's, and it never took off. I had nitrogen deficiency in this field. It was barley, brewing barley for the summer harvest, and we planted a cover crop behind it. It just never took off. And after seeing Zach's cover crop that day, I finally realized that I had a terrible nitrogen deficiency, and his mix, which was similar to mine, was quite a bit different. His radishes and nitrogen-loving crops and grasses did very well, and there weren't as many legumes visible there. And in my cover crop, the picture that was previous to this, they didn't do real well. They got planted late, but what really came through in my mix were all the legumes that were in it. They outcompeted the radishes and the grass crops, and so I realized that I kind of had a way of doing a soil test just by planting a cover crop mix and seeing what came, just to measure the condition there of my nitrogen. But that's kind of a pretty low mat, and hopefully this spring we'll see those take off and grow. This was a spring planted cover crop, four-way mix, rye, radishes, hairy vetch, winter peas. I can't remember, maybe there was some other stuff, but it was spring planted. The idea was to put it in early in the spring, get it up, and then plant pinto beans or a dry bean behind it later in June. Here we tried flailing it. We tried quite a few things, and it didn't work real well for us. It wasn't a complete loss, but definitely managing the residue turned into be quite a problem. This is the fall planted cover crop that we were looking at earlier, and this is in the fall. This is after the freeze I think we had in September, so you can see there was some corn out there, and it's the brown spots out there. It froze, but the radishes and the rye, and if you could get down and look in the canopy, the hairy vetch and winter peas were coming through down lower in the canopy, and it was looking really good. And then we grazed it that fall, and I think we overgrazed it. I'm not an expert, but the picture on the left is what it looked like in early March. It had come out of dormancy. The rye was starting to grow, but very patchy. Not much cover left. But luckily, by June, the picture on the right is what it turned into. There, no radishes. They didn't come back. They were killed. So that's rye, Austrian peas, and hairy vetch that's left there. And so then we grazed that second time in the spring. We tried to do some mob grazing. Our neighbors aren't real happy with us because the cows got out, it seemed like every day. And of course, this is, got corn up around you, and so we've got some figuring out to do there on how to spring graze and still be good neighbors. And residue left, you can see trampled down, and there again, now that it's kind of back to there, and you can see that we don't have very good coverage from the fall stand to the following spring, from winter kill or grazing, and however that works. I'm still not real sure, but we've got some learning to do there. And that's it. So, any questions?
I've been looking at the cost of buying compost or transporting compost to regular, and I wonder, is it in the long run cheaper just to grow your own carbon fertilizer as a green manure, or the crop residue as your carbon source?
I wonder the same thing. I don't good answer. I think the compost will have some benefits that the green manures won't, and vice versa. So I'm not sure the cost benefit there, but you know, I am beginning to look at these things as all different tools that I don't really have figured out what they do. But is one compost better? Is vermicompost better? Is composting in the soil better? Is log grazing? Is this? Is that? And I think maybe each farm, each style of farmer, they're going to find that there isn't really one right way to do it. I still have this feeling, maybe just because I like to plow, but it may be a useful tool. I know it kind of gets beat up in a conference like this, but maybe it has its place when we learn how to use our chemicals, you know, the organic discussion about, you know, Brendan Rocky wanting to be able to have free reign and do what he needs to do. He's found that there are places. So how we manage these tools, to me, is more of the strategy. What works for me for this rotation, for this time of year, for this way of irrigating. My drip system, it's great, but I can't get good germination with a shallow planted small seed like carrot or onion. So do I need a sprinkler? Do I want to pivot out there? You know, I can't plow now because I've got drip tape. I can't be ripping. So each thing kind of limits. It has its advantage and it has its disadvantage. How do I make that all come together for what I want to do? And the compost, I hope more people use it, because that spreader, if it was the first picture, it's not paying to be here because there's so little acres to put across it, and so it makes it tough to go out and spend money on this equipment to do 5 acres or 10 acres or 100 acres, and really you need 700 acres to make that thing really worth having around here. So hopefully we get interest, and as a group, those things then become viable options, and we come together about why compost or green manure or what green manure crop, etc. But I was in Mexico recently, and I talked to some guys who are doing vermicompost, and they're making compost by stacking some manure, planting worms into it. It takes 10 months, and then they come up with a product that's very dense. It's high in humus. They don't add the carbon inputs that I'm trying to do in my composting, but I'm sure they get a benefit from the worm doing the job instead of me and a turner. You know, I'm not sure I know the answer. They said some guys down there are doing 3 tons of the vermicompost mixed with 5 tons of regular compost, and kind of seeing that synergistic effect and getting a better result out of the 2, as opposed to just going with one or the other. So.
Our second speaker for the producer panel is Zach Alberg, Alberg Farms, and he's going to talk a little bit about his cover crop.
Well, with this cover crop, this was my first year. You can tell that it already froze, and it froze down the sorghum stand, and the rest of the radishes and the turnips are still growing pretty well. We started in the spring putting on some compost from Jack, and we started with 5 tons. We saw a significant amount of extra growth from the extra nitrogen and everything, because we didn't cut our dry fertilizer down any, because we were afraid, because I had sweet corn before this cover crop, and I didn't want it to affect the crop negatively. And the cover crop seemed to have quite a bit of extra nitrogen, because the turnips and radishes did grow very well, and the stand grass. The peas and lentils and all that didn't seem like they took off as well, but as you can tell, they changed and they grow faster in some seasons, or sometimes than the rest. As where we put the compost, you couldn't really tell the difference in the cover crop. But in the sweet corn, you really could. We got the cover crop planted around, I want to say the 15th of August, and so it had a good time to grow. I'm anxious to see, I turned cows out on a third of it because I only wanted the pasture part of it, to see what difference it had in the soil for the way it's going to break up the hard pan, or if it needed more of your carbon put back in the soil. So I'm going to try a few different things. I wasn't around the day that everybody was out looking at the cover crops, but it grew well. I've seen a lot of people come by and look at it, so I'm glad to see that, you know, that it's going to help. I'm anxious to try it again. The one question that you had earlier, I was going to say the difference between whether you use compost or grow your carbon is where you have to use compost at some point because you're not going to be able to grow cover crops behind certain crops. So you can't, like field corn, it's too late in the season to plant a cover crop. Other than where Jack tried it, he planted some of that stuff in with his corn. Later on, you might be able to get some in there, but otherwise, you have to use an alternative carbon to put into the soil, or you, like I say, you can't grow a cover crop in too late a crop. I just was thinking of that when I'm sitting over there. The radishes, again, they got really big. I mean, you can see, well, about where the right bend is where the rest of that was growing out of the ground, and there was at least every bit of that in the ground. So they got to really good size. That was just a picture there. The turnips, the purple top turnips, I was really amazed in how big they got. There were some even bigger than 8 inches. I don't know. You know, for the most part, they were all around about 4. They didn't, you know, not every turnip got that big, but in certain spots they got really big. And I'm afraid to see, I hope they break down before I actually have to plow. I was going to try to plow some under this fall, but I ran out of time. And now I like to see that the cover crop was there to actually hold what snow we got to maybe help put a little moisture in the soil. Because for as dry as it is around, I'm afraid that our ground's going to be awful dry. And I'm anxious to see how much moisture the cover crop will hold with the snow and make it, you know, last. If I could actually pick all the turnips and radishes and feed it quite an awful lot of people as big as they got, because they were good and I ate some of them. The cows, we just turned cows into them it was last weekend. So I haven't seen a significant amount of, you know, they've been out there eating it. They seem to like it, but I haven't learned how they eat it. If they're going to eat the Sudan grass and all that first, and then turn and eat the tops of the turnips, or if they'll actually dig the turnips and radishes up, or how they eat. So I haven't learned that yet. And like I say, Jack, he's the one that come to us and wanted to know if we start out trying a few things, and we did, and luckily it worked out really well for us, and I'm glad we did. And so next year we'll make sure we're going to do some more composting on some more different soils, and I want to see, you know, and I'm going to get to the point where I start cutting back some of my dry fertilizer rates and use the compost in accordance so that I can use less dry and then help the soil with organic matter in that aspect. And that is a picture of the compost, I'm sure, and the mixtures of stuff that he puts in there. Yeah, I think that was mine. Either way.
Actually, that's the compost that you.
Yeah.
Yes, Jack will be talking about that.
Okay. Otherwise, you know, like I say, for the cover crop that we had, I thought it was a great mix. It's not going to be one of those mixes that you can really graze off and then it'll grow back to graze again. But I wasn't particularly looking for it to be a good to graze. I was really looking just to add carbon and humus to the soil is what I was looking for. If I can get to the point where I'm going to look and see if I can graze, say, half of it, or just graze it down halfway, and then pull the cows off, and then actually work that particular amount of stuff into the soil, what difference it makes there. I'm going to try that in an upcoming year. I hope that the turnips break down over the winter, because if you got to plow an 8 or 10 inch turnip down, it means you're going to have to plow off the deep to get any cover on it. So I guess, and I don't know if I can disc it enough to get them cut up, but we'll try and see what happens. So in that aspect, that's all I got.
Questions for Zach?
Since you planted that in August,
It was about middle August 15th to the 20th.
what did you have in there before that?
Sweet corn, it was spring tree, the earliest sweet corn you can get.
Did you do something with the stalks?
Just distant in. Yep, I didn't, there wasn't, you could have chopped them, but as short as that spring tree is, I dissed the field twice, and it relatively got kind of level, so then I just rolled it over without the teeth in, and just to firm it up, and then just spread it and marked it out. And it seemed to work really well. The water, it was a little bit tougher to get the water through because there was a little trash. I probably should have dissed it directly after we harvested. It seemed like it cut it up and put it under a little deeper, where we went around it when we harvested the sweet corn. But as it dried out a little bit, it dissed it down pretty fine, and the water, it went through, it just basically soaked through for the most part. And then after that, then